I think I heard Scott.
Yeah,
no, we don't see him though. Yeah, there he is.
You got me?
We got you.
Yeah, are you driving or are you being driven?
No, I'm driving.
You got a self-driving car?
No, fuck it. How hard can it be? Hold the phone in one hand and drive with the other. Come on.
And if he's in LA, there's traffic, so you're not going fast.
I'm not driving. I can't tell. Is this thing like super zoomed in on me, or is the shot okay? Is that all right?
No, you're good.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
So what I was saying was, you all got the wrong song. I have to disagree. The best song in our history, our whole catalog ever, is our Kiss cover of "Love Her All I Can."
What about starting up a posse? I was going to put that in there.
No, number 2 would be Kiss cover of "Watching You." Then number 3 would be Kiss cover of "Parasite." There's a pattern here.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, in all honesty, one of the favorite covers you ever did is the cover of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I always love that one.
Thank you. Although, I listened to that not too long ago, and we didn't even know how to play it properly, which maybe is what makes it different and good in some way, because we're not just covering it. Like, I'm not even playing the riffs right. So I just kind of played it how I thought it went when we recorded that. And it's close, but it's definitely not what Tony's playing. But I guess it works.
Hey, Scott, we do these top 6 lists for every guest, and it's so hard to just cut 6 songs, obviously. But one song that all 3 of us had was "In the End" from Worship Music. And I was saying, I think that's just like a modern classic. And I mean, that song's pretty much been in your set ever since that album came out, right?
Yeah, I think maybe there was a little bit like when we first started touring on For Old Kings, and we put Blood Eagle Wings in the set. But then I think not long after that, we put In the End and Blood Eagle Wings in the set, because we thought dynamically it was just 2 really cool moments over an almost 2-hour show where we were able to kind of just change the dynamic. So yeah, In the End has pretty much been in the set since that record came out.
And did you guys know when you were writing it? Because everybody knows that people know the story of Worship Music. It was a tough birth. There were a lot of things that were going on at that time. But we love that record top to bottom. It's amazing. Did you know when you guys were recording and writing a song like In the End that it was going to be like a more modern classic for you? Did you feel something special about it, even making it?
Yeah, there was something special about it from the beginning. Because that song took a long time. That was a song that we initially, it was a completely different song. It had a completely different chorus. I'm trying to think of what it was called. It was completely different lyrics. It was a totally different thing, and we were never happy with it. It just wasn't right. And we were like, this is definitely not making the record. It wasn't good. But we stayed with it because there was something there, like the verse part, and we kept working on it. And I can remember I was actually out on tour with the Damn Things at the time, and Rob Caggiano, who was also in the band, we were together like in a car in Detroit, and Charlie sent a file. He said, "Hey, that for that song, I think check this out." And he sent a different arrangement with these 2 different parts, with like a chorus part that is the chorus part, and we listened to it in this car, and we were like, wow, that's it. Finally, it was like where it was supposed to be. And then of course I knew what I was going to write about, and then I had to come up with lyrics that matched how amazing the music was. So yeah, I'm going to say that song took like a year to get to where it was when we recorded it. And we always knew there was something great about it. And I'm just really glad we stayed with it.
Hey, is that where a producer like Jay Rustin, who we're all friends with, comes in, Scott? Or is that just you guys hacking away at it until you got it?
Yeah, that was just us not, knowing it wasn't where it should be. it just always kind of felt like, this part's great, but it's just not right. We knew it wasn't right. But we also knew we weren't going to throw it in the garbage, because when we're making a record, a lot of stuff, goes in the trash. Um, but there was always something about that song that made us kept going back to it.
Yeah, you guys never rush a record either. Like this new one you guys have been working on for like 3-4 years now, right?
We've only really been working on it for a year-ish, I would say. I
Okay.
mean, we have demos. Charlie has demos that he sent pre-COVID. Um, but then once lockdown and all that stuff happened, we just all walked away. Nothing creative was happening at all with us through that whole period. And then slowly but surely, when we started playing shows again in 21 and going into 22, that's when we started working again, really. And then in the last year, we really started to put stuff together, and Charlie and Frankie and I getting together and having writing sessions and arranging stuff, and to the point where we finally went in the studio just recently and recorded 9 songs that have drums, bass, and guitar done now. And Donay's got a couple of lead breaks that are killer that he's demoed and sent to us. Hasn't actually officially recorded them yet, but I think he's going to get most of his stuff written, and then he'll go in and record all of it. And I'm pretty sure we've got dates on the books for Joey to start working as well with Jay next month. So yeah, everything's like officially moving along at a decent pace now.
Hey, Scott, you mentioned that you didn't do much during the lockdown, but you did put something out that for people that haven't seen it, they should go watch it if it's still on YouTube. And that was a really comprehensive episode by
Oh
episode
yeah,
documentary for 40 years of Anthrax, which some of it you actually used in your last show where you projected parts of it on the screen and stuff like that. But that was so great because and even though it was tough that a lot of people couldn't actually be in a studio, there are a lot of people around sitting around. So you caught a lot of people doing segments for it. Is that documentary still on YouTube? And are you going to maybe do an edit where you make it all one big piece at some point?
I think all that stuff is on YouTube. I don't check the Anthrax YouTube channel all that often, but I have to assume it's probably all on there. Um, yeah, and that really, we had a lot of grand plans to celebrate our 40th, by touring in 2021 that summer, and it just wasn't going to happen at that point in time because of the state of the world at that time. So we knew many months in advance, knowing that, all right, we're not going to get to go out on tour the way we wanted to. So what are we going to do? And then we had the idea, well, what if we could just like do some kind of documentary series? And like you said, everybody's home. So we should be able to get a lot of people to talk about stuff, as well as everybody's home sitting around watching stuff. So a lot of people will watch it, and it'll give people something to do once a week, as we were posting the episodes. So and it kept us busy too, working on it. So yeah, I'm really proud of that documentary series. It was, we basically took each album, from Fistful all the way through to For All Kings, and we did an episode based around each album. And um it's pretty comprehensive. Whether or not we'll use that existing stuff and put it all together as one thing, or maybe just use that as an idea to do something else to tell the story. Because I really feel like, and we've talked about this as a band, and we've talked about it with management and with producers and all kinds of people, that there really is an amazing story here of a band that's going on 40, is 42, going on 43 next year. And what's the best way to tell that story? And it would be cool if we could get an actual series out of it, something that would be on a streaming network, and do something on that kind of level with an actual budget, and put something together with proper production, not people just sending in Zoom interviews with crappy backgrounds. You know what I mean? So I would love to think that we're gonna be able to tell the whole story at some point, and do it in a really cool way.
Yeah.
It was really, really
Yeah,
good.
Scott, Don was talking earlier about the Yankee Stadium show, the Big Four show. I was at that show and it was iconic. But the main thing I remember that is you were busting Eddie's balls from the stage at Yankee Stadium on the mic, busting his balls in front of 50,000 people. You couldn't even not do it then. It was so great.
Well,
That was because that was a Mets Yankees thing, if I recall at
Yeah.
the time. Because they were playing, because I was busting their balls saying they should be at the time, I guess, Shea Stadium. And then I remember Scott walked up to the microphone and said, I forget what you said, something like, "You hear that, Ed Trunk? We're at Yankee Stadium, not that shitty Mets." And I remember standing in the wings of the stage, and I don't know who was standing next to me. And I just looked at the right and the left. I go, did he actually just say that to the crowd? And they're like, yeah,
it's
he
not
did.
often. I mean, figured it's not often you get that stage to bust somebody's balls from about New
I was
York
honored.
baseball. So, but
I was honored.
I had said months before that show that it's a good thing it's Yankee Stadium, because if this was happening at Shea, we wouldn't have been on the bill. We would have boycotted.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus
right.
Christ. Well, the ball busting between the Mets and Yankees between us has gone on literally 40 years. But Scott, I was just thinking about it. Here we are on October 4th. Neither of us have baseball to
Oh, my
watch right
God.
now, so we're on equal footing.
Oh my God, and the Giants too. Like, is this the worst year?
Oh.
Is this the worst year for New York sports in history? I mean, there's probably worse, going back to in the 1960s when the Yankees were terrible and the Mets were terrible and the Giants were terrible. And I mean, it just seems so hopeless right now.
And the Jets.
Yeah, and the Jets, and I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm in Mr. Bungle too, and Mike Patton is a huge sports guy, big baseball, big football guy, and we talk sports all the time. And he's busting my balls about the Yankees, and I'm like, yeah, well, there's nothing I can say, right? And then at one point he texts me and he goes, "Well, at least you're not the Mets," and I'm like, why? Because I assumed the Yankees had the worst record in comparison to their payroll. And he said, no, 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 no. He said, Google it. The Mets have the highest payroll in baseball.
In baseball history this year was the highest payroll ever.
Yeah. So he's like, and he goes, the Mets are even worse. He goes, so at least you got that going for you.
Hey, Jim, you're a San Francisco Giants fan. I stopped watching baseball like back in June this year, but are the Giants any good?
No,
they didn't make the playoffs either. And they fired their manager, which is good. So
yeah, no, that was mostly all this whole season was me and Patton commiserating over our teams, just endless text threads about how much our teams suck.
Well, yeah. Well, the Mets are still paying Bobby Bonilla and Yoenis Cespedes. So, they have a very inflated payroll still until like 2030.
That's insane. That's crazy.
Hey, Scott,
Wow.
talk a little bit about some of the stuff you're doing outside of Anthrax. You just did dates with Mr. Bungle, right?
Yeah, we just did some Northeast dates, and then we got to do Montreal and Toronto. We did New York again. We sold out Terminal 5, and we did Riot Fest in Chicago. And we do things like these short runs. We just go out for 2 weeks at a time, which keeps it real easy and really comfortable for everybody. Nobody's looking to, like, it would be really hard for me if it was like, okay, it's going to be like a full-time thing where we're going to go out and do 6-week runs like I would do in Anthrax, or it's really easy to just run out, do like 8 shows in 2 weeks, and then take a few months off, and then come back again and do another 8-10 shows, and we're just having a lot of fun with it. We made that record, The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny. It came out a couple of years ago, and our plan is to try and, hit everywhere around the world at least one time, so people can get to see this version of Mr. Bungle. And then, what the plan for the band after that would be is that's kind of above my pay grade. That's in the hands of Mike and Trey and Trevor. I'm just hoping whatever they decide to do, if anything, after this, that I would get the text message saying we would like you to be a part of it. But right for now, we're having a blast, man. We just there's a lot of ball busting. There's a lot of amazing dinners because we all love to eat, and a lot of amazing shows. And I'm getting to play like thrash metal, like at this age, playing faster than anyone at 59 is supposed to be playing. It's extremely difficult, but I love it. I love it, and it's just been an amazing experience for me getting to work with Mike and Trey and Trevor because Bungle's one of my favorite bands of all time, and the fact that I'm a part of that now is still a huge mind fuck for me. It's crazy.
I got to jump in real quick because your cover of Van Halen's "Lost Control" is so off the charts, amazing. I mean, it's so hard to think you could possibly say it could be better than the original, but it might be.
That when
Hey, Mr. Bungle
Yeah.
did that?
Go
I didn't
on,
hear that. Mr.
you could
Bungle did it?
go on YouTube. We did it as an encore for the live stream we did back in 2020. I think we did like a live stream around Halloween of 2020 during lockdown. We did a live stream from a studio here in LA, and yeah, they always wanted to cover that. Mike told me they wanted to do Lost of Control back in the 90s, when they were an active band. He said, but we weren't good enough to do it. He said, but with this lineup with you and Lombardo, it works. And yeah, I mean, God, that's so much fun to play that song. Talk about like shitting my pants, like having having to learn an Eddie riff and be able to play that right. I mean, I guess maybe on the scale of Van Halen, of his riffs, it's not the hardest thing he ever wrote, but still, it's like I'm shaking in my shoes every time I need to play that because I'm so worried I'm not going to do it justice.
Yeah, and Patton getting every nuance of Roth down and all live, like through the megaphone and
Oh
through
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
It's not a like done in the studio. It's from a live stream, and
No, it's live. Yeah.
It's unbelievable, Ed. You got to watch it.
And we play it.
Yeah.
It comes in and out of the set. The set changes like every show, and but that'll be in every 3-4 shows. Loss of Control will be in in the encore, and I get so excited. It's one of the few things that really really makes me nervous to have to play because it's Ed. I mean, come on. Um, but that it makes my focus even that much more, and it makes it that much more even enjoyable to accomplish something like that, getting to play that live.
Do you play the guitar solo,
No,
Scott?
Trey plays the solo, but the riffs in that
Okay.
song are insane. Someone told me that that even when it goes to the C part in the chorus parts, that even it.
Oh, we just lost him.
So there it is.
Yep,
Sorry,
there he is.
there was a call coming in. It paused the whole thing for some reason. Anyway, yeah, it's I don't play the leads, but man, even the riff is such a tongue twister of a riff. It's amazing.
Women and Children is a heavy Van Halen album. I've always loved that record. It's one of my favorites in their whole catalog.
It's like 31 minutes long too, which is great.
Just rips.
Right.
Fools is on that. Fools is so heavy. That riff, just heavy album. Hey, Scott, before we let you go, talking about outside stuff, of course, your bandmate, Charlie Benanti, is in a major outside thing with Pantera right now. I saw Charlie. I finally had a chance to see Pantera at Rocklahoma back on Labor Day weekend. I'm assuming you've seen some shows, and just curious of your thoughts of him doing this and hearing those guys do this material again.
Yeah. I got to see it right at the start. I was with Mr. Bungle. We were playing Knotfest last December down in Chile, and Pantera was on that same show. I think it was maybe like the third or fourth show they were playing. Rex wasn't even there because he got sent home because he got COVID. And it was amazing. And watching 40,000 Chileans who I would say 95% of them never saw Pantera, maybe even more, losing their minds. It was quite the experience. And then just recently. They were in Southern California because they played with Metallica, but we drove. Revel and Pearl and I drove down to San Diego because we wanted to see the headline show, not them opening. We wanted to see them headline with their full production, and um, man, it was great. It was so great. It was even so much better than what I saw last December because obviously they've played a lot of shows since then, and just so tight. And it feels so good. I mean, for me, look, as someone who saw Pantera, I mean, over 100 times for sure. We toured with them quite a bit, and um, you know, if I close my eyes, it feels right. It sounds and it feels right, and to me, that's what means everything to me. Um, I mean, I could tell you that if it didn't feel right, it wouldn't be happening. There's no way those four guys get up on a stage if they don't feel like they're doing it correctly. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they don't none of them need to. None of them need to do that. And but it feels right. And that's why you watch those guys and it's like nothing but smiles, watching them play and seeing Phil up there smiling and seeing Rex with the big old smile on his face. And, after 20 odd years getting to do it again and pay tribute to Daryl and Vinny and carry the torch for one of the best heavy metal bands of all time. It felt so good standing there as an audience member out at the soundboard because we wanted to watch from out front and feel the full impact of the production and hear it from out front. And I got choked up a couple of times. I'll admit I got very emotional.
And you jammed with him too, right? You and your son.
We ran up and sang on Walk. They asked if we would come up and like the old days and shout Walk. And for me to have Revel get to do that because he's such a Pantera fan, it meant so much to him. It was so cool.
What does he think of Anthrax, your son?
He loves Anthrax. Yeah,
He has to, right?
he doesn't have to. No, hell
Right.
no. But I would say of the big four, Slayer is his favorite for sure.
Really?
Oh yeah,
How long before that reunion, Scott?
Slayer.
Yeah.
I bet you could probably put money on that in Vegas. I would bet. I mean, yeah. What's the over under? Would be 1 year to 5 years. I would love to. My hot take on it is I'm gonna say it's not gonna happen. I know everybody. Oh, just a matter of time. Money talks. But I would like to say, and great if I'm wrong because then we get to see Slayer again. But I'm gonna say it's not gonna happen. They're the one band that's gonna say we're done and they're not coming back. If I'm wrong, great.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's one case where you want to be wrong. Yeah, I hear you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's do our this first that.
All right.
Yeah, Scott, you able to hang in here with this?
Yeah, just my son's gonna get out of school in like 3 minutes. So yeah.
All right, so real quick. So compare two things. Favorite rhythm guitarist, Malcolm versus Paul Stanley.
Malcolm.
That was quick.
Well,
Guys, come on.
That's
Come on.
Come too. He's got to.
I mean, he's my hero. Come on. I love Paul, but Malcolm, come on.
But why is he better than Paul? I'm not saying he's not, but why do you say he is? Not just because you love him. What guitar wise? Why?
Why is he better? I don't. Oh, I didn't know I was saying he was better. I thought you asked me who do I like better?
Oh well.
Pick
Well,
one.
both.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just look. I obviously. I mean, Malcolm Young is the prototypical rhythm guitarist, right, Scott? I mean, he really. I mean, he's the guy. If you like, you're predominantly a rhythm guitar player. When you talk about great rhythm guitar players, he's pretty much the benchmark, right?
Yes. Look, Paul Stanley is a great rhythm guitar player too, but Kiss and AC/DC are very different bands. So it's just a completely different. Yeah, they're both rock bands, of course, but it's a completely different feel. I mean, you guys don't need me to explain that, but Malcolm is just. It's just such a. it's all encompassing. It's just the all encompassing drive of what AC/DC is. That's the only way I can explain it. And that's, of course, Phil Rudd, too. It's the whole package. But there's just something about Malcolm's style, about the way Malcolm plays, that for me, I think he's the greatest. He's the most in the pocket, greatest rhythm guitar player of all time.
Hey, Scott, are you going to Power Trip this weekend?
I am not going to Power Trip this weekend. I'm not a big fan of the shows out in the desert.
Right. Well, I'll be out there sweating, so I'll let you know how it is.
Yeah, it's supposed to be super hot and super windy. Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So,
So,
Mick,
well-
so I'm gonna. Who goes next?
Well, does Scott need to drop
Yes,
out now?
Scott, go ahead. You got to go get your kid and stuff. We'll let you go. You weighed in, so thank you.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Good seeing you, man.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you,
to
brother.
see all you guys, and I'm available I love doing this, so keep me on your list. I'll come back anytime.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, we'll use you as a special consultant.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, all right.
Say hi to the
All
family.
right, cheers,
See
guys.
you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
No, I picked Malcolm here too. I mean, you know, I'm a huge AC/DC fan, and that rhythm section in the band is just insane. So that's my pick, Malcolm.
Who's next?
I'll go next. But this is really tough. Everything everybody said about Malcolm is true. It's the respect I have, especially for Malcolm and all of AC/DC, is the precision in which you have to play those chords. Having learned a couple AC/DC songs to play on the Monsters cruise or get up and jam with bands, it's such so precise. Even though it's really just 5 chords every song, very simple chords that anybody could play, but they have to be played the right way, and all the finger positions and the picking have to be perfect. But as in terms of what I prefer, what I like better, what I find more creative is the way Paul Stanley plays. He sings as well. He puts on a costume. He does play dual leads. Got a bigger body of work. Which I don't hold against Malcolm, but I think what Paul does musically and rhythmically, just a little more creative in my book.
Well, they're both key writers in their band, obviously. You're right. And Paul sings, Malcolm didn't. Paul fronts the band, Malcolm didn't. So he's all over the stage moving around. And I can't comment on their technical abilities because I don't play guitar. So I don't know anything about chords and picking or whatever. I just know what my ear likes. And although I love AC/DC, for me, as most people know, Kiss was my gateway band. I was a massive Kiss fan. Paul was always my favorite member. And I loved, so the big difference here to me is Malcolm Young, I think, is about precision and driving the band in a certain way that's so important to what he does in the structure of that band, with his brother running around like a nut, doing his thing. But the thing about Paul Stanley for me, just as a fan, from a visual standpoint, from a listening standpoint, there's an attitude to that playing. There's a lot of there's rhythm guitar, but there's just a lot of big bashing out big power chords and just windmilling and just banging that guitar off his knee and just banging out those chords. So that I always related to that so much as a kid, even to now. So there's a certain swagger and attitude that comes with the way he plays, where Malcolm is very precision and spot on, which kind of has to be in that band. Paul's a lot more just like attitude, reckless, just banging out power chords, playing riffs when he needs to. So yep. I give the nod here to Paul Stanley, just because I grew up a bigger Kiss fan than AC/DC fan. And I just, what Paul brought on in all of those ways is what always resonated with me. So that's where I'm going with him.
There's nothing better than Cliff Williams and Malcolm just hanging by the speakers in the back, letting Angus do his thing, and Brian Jones, and then walking up, doing a big back and go right back to that spot. It's the best. It's fucking. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. If you liked it, here are a few more you might like. And if you want to support the show, consider hitting the join button and becoming a channel member to unlock exclusive bonus content.